Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. Hello, I'm Linda and here is my friend Paul. Hello Paul.
Hello, Linda. You're trying to change up the intro.
I know, but it's still, I told you, end of the year we're stuck with this one. How are you?
I'm all right. You?
Yes, it's been another long week and I think we're all looking forward to having
Ending
a rest.
it all.
I'm not sure that's how.
Yes,
that means. Ending the year, yeah. Yes. Ending the year on a high after being an unusual year again.
Yeah. Yeah. What's cooking?
What's cooking? Well, I was going to ask you,
I
know, about preserved lemons.
Oh,
because,
okay.
I haven't had any success with my garlic nor with my olives. My preserved lemons that I've had for 6 months.
Wow, yes.
Are sitting in the present cupboard. But, and I was watching Nigella Lawson last night and she said, I love preserved lemons, and she had two of her it was a Christmas special, and she had two dishes that she used preserved lemons in.
Mm-hmm.
One was a sort of an African style sort of veggie dish with big chunks of veggies and beans, white beans, cannellini beans.
Yep.
And the other dish was Brussels sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I've never really thought of how, she cooked Brussels sprouts with some leek, preserved lemon, a little bit of cinnamon and something else. And as you know, Dougie loves Brussels sprouts, and they're not my favourite. But I wondered the use of preserved lemon. It's not something that people have generally laying around, but I know you really like it, and you often do have it actually in your fridge.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, can we talk about how you use it? What do you use it for? Because she actually, I think you said to me just, use the outside, you don't use the inside bits. But she just kind of took a big chunk of her preserved lemon and just cut the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well,
so
we better have a chat about this.
Yeah, so sometimes it'll come back to the process in how you've preserved your lemons.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that we do it, or the way that I taught you how to do it, is probably there are faster ways to do it. So you can do a quicker preserved lemon than what we do, which is sit for, I think it's minimum 3 months.
Yeah.
So that said, I think the key to preserved lemons is and we've talked about this before, we've talked about the importance of salt and acid being natural flavour enhancers of food.
Mm-hmm.
Preserved lemon, I would consider using it like a seasoning, like you would salt.
Okay.
So I reckon if you actually went back and watched those episodes again, that she may well have added very little salt to those dishes, because the salt content to bring out the flavour of everything else may well have been the preserved lemons, and because it's acid and salt in one, it probably has a double punch, if you like. Now they're very strong, as you know. So yeah, I kind of look at them as a seasoning of sorts that have their own very unique flavour profile. What they're really good for, like obviously fish is, it comes to mind. And any of that North African, if you like, cuisine, obviously they're used very broadly in.
Well, how would you use it for fish? As a garnish afterwards, or in the cooking process?
Oh, both. Yeah, both. One thing that I found is it really good with preserved lemons is if you actually get a bit of colour on them when you're roasting them. It just adds a whole another level of flavour to them. So if you're doing a leg of lamb, let's say, or any sort of roast, some preserved lemons, once it's a bit over halfway through, because you don't want them to burn, but getting some nice golden brown roasted colour on them actually will give you another look at what preserved lemons can be. So for fish, yes, you can do it before, after, depends on how you're cooking it. Very good mixed through things like the examples that you just given, through salads, warm salads, vegetable salads, obviously couscous. Pretty much, like, a lot of people, probably a really good example is Maggie Beer is a very famous Australian cook.
She's fabulous, isn't she?
And she will go, and if you look at her recipe, she uses a lot of lemon zest and finely grated zest. And she uses that as in essence, a flavour enhancer. Yes, it's got its own flavour of lemon, but it's also working as a flavour enhancer for everything else that she's doing. So I think you could easily swap any of that out for preserved lemon. A little bit trickier in desserts, of course, because it's a very high salt content. But it can be done just in real moderation, because remember you got something that's very potent and powerful. It's quite intense in flavour. So less is more with preserved lemons, I think. And adding a little bit of heat to them, whether you colour them up and get some nice roasted caramelisation on them or not, but a little bit of warmth to them almost brings out the oils that are sort of trapped in the skins. So, I think they have, endless amount of use. So I really like them with lamb. Really like preserved lemons with lamb. I just think it sits, it's just really good. That salty acidity cuts through the fattiness of lamb. So I think it works really well with lamb. But you can mix them through a compound butter and put it on fish or scallops, or it almost has endless uses, really.
So when you say compound butter,
yes.
You mean take some butter and mix a bit of the preserved lemon through it?
Yeah, with other bits and pieces, some coriander, whatever.
Okay.
So a compound butter is a butter that you make with other ingredients in it. And generally they're to a degree whipped a little bit, and then most of the time, like in restaurants, they get rolled into a cylinder, and you take slices off it and you put it on top of things before you grill it or gratinate it or something like that. It's just a final sort of flourish. But yeah, you could essentially make a preserved lemon butter, why not, and cook some fish in that. Absolutely, that'd be delicious. So yeah, and your preserved lemons, just so everyone out there listening knows, because you were so nervy about them, you did bring one in yesterday to have a bit of a, so we could try it to make sure it was good. And it was very good, actually.
I was very nervous about it because it hasn't been, as you know, the best success for me this year with my little bits.
One thing I do have to ask about those preserved lemons, did you cut the slices in them?
Yes.
You did you?
Did
you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was, and please don't take offence, but I was very surprised how precise they were. So basically what you do is you just score through the skin and the pith just before you get into the flesh. So if you imagine the length of the lemon, you just make score lines. And generally, me being lazy-ish, I will do maybe 4 or 5 at best. But Linda's got this perfect sort of almost looks like perfect sort of segments, waiting to be sort of ripped out and taking the skin off. And with the innards of the preserved lemon, yes, you can use them, but because it depends on the lemon. If you've got a really thick pith, so different lemons have, like a Meyer lemon has a really thin skin and almost a very minimal amount of pith, but the pith in them is really strong. And Eureka lemons, which are the big sort of common ones that you and I would both know and most people would know, much bigger lemon, really thick pith, depending on the time of year as well. So the pith is the part for me that is the sort of troublesome part of using a whole preserved lemon, because I think that's the bit that is really bitter. And even with the preservation process, and you've got honey in there, and there's some sweetness in there, it's that I don't want to get a mouthful of preserved lemon pith.
So what we should do is test a little piece of it to see how it tastes overall,
Yeah, you
You're
see,
gonna
I
use
think
anything
I think
else.
that if you were to use the preserved lemon and its, innards, if you like, I would be just taking one of those sort of orange segment sized pieces out, cutting it up, and I would cook that. There's almost no reason why I wouldn't cook that. I doubt very much whether I'd just serve that straight up as a preserved lemon, chopped up and thrown into something. I would definitely want to cook that. I think I need to take out some of that sort of bitterness if I can.
Okay,
So I'm very much one for preserved lemons. You use the skin. That's it.
okay.
But that's
Because
me.
I did see you actually, one that I bought in, you just did a very fine sort of shave on the outside and tested it. But
Yeah, because essentially what you want to do is once your preserved lemon is done, you want to take your segments off it and you essentially want to fillet it like you would fillet a piece of fish. And what you throw out is what you would normally keep from the fish, which is the fish fillet. But you want to ditch that and keep the skin part.
okay.
And you just want the skin. I think if you can just get the skin, and part of the good thing about the preservation process is that it actually makes it easy to do. And you just need to run your knife parallel to your board and just cut right, just so the skin doesn't get damaged, but cut all of that pith and all of that middle part of the lemon out. I know it can be used, but depends on the pith. I think that's the trick for me. If it's a really thick white pith, no.
Well, what
I say no.
while I may have done really well with my segment spacing and
Yeah,
cutting,
was seriously. I was like, Dougie did this. I'm
No,
sure
no,
he did. He
Dougie-
got the
no,
scalpel out or something like
no,
that.
I did use a Stanley knife for the very preserved, and so I was
Very precise.
very precise with
They're
a
very like appealing
small-
looking.
Well, thanks, but but what
As
a
a gift, if you're putting them in a jar,
yeah,
like it looks
that's what I
quite
am going to be doing.
looks
with
quite
them.
fancy.
But I must say I was looking at the recipe that's on the website, and you used I think Maya lemons, small ones.
I can't remember.
Were they? But
Yeah.
there were 3 in the jar, and I knew the jar kind of the size that you had. And we've got this lemon tree in the back, and it's been prolific this year. We're
Yeah.
sort of looking at what we do with them, which is why I thought, I'll make some preserved lemons and put them in the laundry for Christmas as presents. And since we're trying to keep it simple this year and not go crazy with
Yeah.
too many gifts and things that we can make. So I thought, aha, I know, preserved lemons. So I've picked all these lemons and then I bought these jars and one lemon fitted in one jar.
Yeah.
And I went, I
Remember,
should have really
like,
paid attention to that.
You can always cut them in half.
No, I didn't know that.
Well,
I've
there's
never
why
done one
why
before.
wouldn't you?
I
Like,
don't
there's no
know.
rule.
I don't know. But when I make them next time, maybe I'll know
Yeah,
that.
you can even cut them
and
into
jam them in.
even cut them into
And
wedges.
it would have fitted better.
Yeah.
But then I had a shortage of the fluid and I had to double it and I had
Yeah.
to...
But you can even cut them into wedges. It's just, I think the preserving time, and I'm not an expert in preservation, but preserving time, if you cut them smaller, says to me, because there's more surface area where the preserve is getting and where the liquid and the salt and all the rest of it, it says to me that it would be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But don't quote me. But the texture of that one you brought in yesterday was like properly what I would consider like perfect preserved lemon, good to go. And the good thing is they sit there. And so what you should have done was get yourself like a 20-litre bucket and just made a ton of them.
I should have
But
used
the trick is to make sure when you're preserving them is to keep them in a dark spot away from light and make sure they're fully submerged, like fully submerged.
We put Dougie did this. We did put toothpicks in each one just to make sure that it was down below the lid.
Yeah.
So the fluid level was always going to be higher than it.
Yeah.
But like way down below the rim, so that when the lid went on, it was always covered. But
If you're doing volumes of them, all you need to do is get a
Yeah.
dinner plate.
yeah.
Make a cartouche, get a dinner plate,
So
stick it on top,
I
close the
should
lid.
have not bought as many olives, knowing now what
Yeah.
we know, and use the buckets that I bought for those.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
exactly that.
Because
But anyway,
because really, anyway, I have been making vast quantities of olive tapenade for the other side of the Christmas presents, which has been nice because it's easy and it's quick and it's really tasty. But
but
yeah.
preserved lemons in your fennel salad with your roast pork. Like it just brightens and it gives a zing, but not that really sort of. It's a different zing to fresh lemon zest. It's very different. It's far more complex preserved lemons. So slice them thinly, like you want small pieces. So whether you dice them, slice them, whatever, you don't want big. I don't think you want big chunks of preserved lemon. It's like, imagine if an anchovy was the size of a trout.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, even with anchovies, you generally, and I'm generalising here, but you might cut them down a little bit in size unless they're really, really good quality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think smaller pieces, you don't need a lot of it. Like,
so even if you're going to put it in the roasting tray, you would cut the slice and then still make it into little thin strips.
Yeah, I would.
And then put that into the roasting tray.
Yeah, just don't put it in too early, because you're going to roast the hell out of it and lose that. So even on, like, over roast potatoes, some julienne strips of lemon over roast potatoes, just like 5 minutes before you pull them out. Like, oh, yum. And even better still, if you wanted to do salt and vinegar roast potatoes with preserved lemon. Now you're talking. So boil your potatoes. I know we talk steam all the time, but boil your potatoes in white vinegar until they're soft. Don't add any salt at that stage. So until they're like you would parboil before a roast at any stage. Drain all the vinegar off, ditch that, get rid of it, and then just roast them with salt in olive oil, and then the last 5 minutes scatter over some preserved lemons. That'd be good. That'd be really good.
So vinegar?
Yeah, well, it's like salt and vinegar chips, but big ones. But whole potato salt and vinegar chips.
Wow.
If you're not super keen on vinegar, just do 50% vinegar, 50% water.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, they're properly good, and especially with some preserved lemon, it'd be really good.
Okay. So there's a few things that we can use.
Oh yeah, it's like almost anything savoury.
I like the idea of the I like we've discussed it umami, but in earlier episodes. But I do like the idea of the butter with some cooked off, let it cool down, mix it with the butter and some other bits and pieces. Yeah. And then have it with some fish.
Yeah, that prawns, would be nice. Scallops.
Prawns. On the barbie.
Yeah, prawns on the barbie and just toss them through some of that butter.
Oh, yum. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I won't be giving them away as presents. Maybe
but it goes a long way.
Okay.
Like one lemon, and that was the size of
that was the size of a small grapefruit, but
it was reasonably big, but that will last.
And there's still some more lemons out there because Nigella.
Oh, your best mate.
My bestie, my BFF, is it, or BBF? I'm never sure. She also said that she uses, because my favourite, as you might recall, my absolute favourite alcoholic drink is a martini, and she actually said that she puts the some of the preserved lemon juice into the martini. But I looked at the colour of my one, which is quite strong and cloudy, and I thought, I'm not sure about that.
So one of my closest and dearest friends, who worked in restaurants for 30 plus years.
Is his name Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
I've had a lot of martinis. No one holds a candle to how he makes a martini. And I'm not what do they call themselves these days? Mixologist, by any stretch of the imagination. I could imagine that working, but the way that my friend Michael would make a martini is he would freeze the martini glass, and then he would pour some vermouth in it and just swizzle it around the martini glass and ditch it. Right, and then basically it was just straight gin. But I would imagine that if you did the same thing and used a little bit, and I mean a little bit of that preserving liquor in the same manner, you just swirl it around the glass and tip it out until it's, shake it out until it's almost dry, and then add your gin. I would say, go close to being pretty good actually.
Well, maybe I'll try that for Christmas.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, okay. Because I wasn't sure. I thought.
I mean, the preserved lemons that we do, like it's a recipe that I just made up. So the quantities of salt are quite high. It's also got honey in it, which I don't think is traditional, and various other. I don't know.
Star
right?
anise.
Yeah, various other bits and pieces. But I'm sure you could do lower sodium lower salt preserved lemons, but it would certainly take much, much longer.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, preserved lemons.
Well, thank you.
Or everything that you didn't need to know.
And just the end bit on this for the last mention I'll make of my best friend Nigella. She was cooking duck, and I know that we recently had someone reach out to us and ask for just a basic duck recipe. But what was interesting was that Nigella said, "Well, I used to have this really simple method, but now I've got an even simpler method, and I use steam." And I did get quietly. That's why I watched the rest of the show, because I thought, aha. Now we're talking. Maybe she's got a steam oven in her country kitchen. There she was, but no, she just put water in the bottom. But and she pricked the duck skin all over with toothpicks.
But,
yeah, but I thought, aha, here we are moving slowly towards. We're putting water in pans. Maybe we're going to see some celebrity chefs maybe start cooking.
I think it's
with
just
steam.
a matter of time. Just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think so too. Since they're gaining popularity all around the world, these little combi steam ovens, they're great.
Very good.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that, Paul. I now
am
a bit more inspired to go home and have a martini tonight.
Excellent.
And definitely for Christmas.
Martini time.
Martini time, yay. Thank you. Take care. Happy cooking, everybody.
Happy cooking.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.